Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. We have some very, very volatile events occurring right now. Talking about the US presidential election is occurring right now as we speak. As we speak, we see stock features that are starting to rise pretty tremendously. And also Palantir Technologies, which already had an absolutely crushing day in terms of skyrocketing in price up over 50 bucks. We see Palantir up over another 5% in the after and overnight hours on Robinhood, touching 53 bucks, currently at 52.50. And if we look right here at the live electoral map on what the current election results are in terms of projected wins, we have 214 electoral votes for Trump and 179 for Harris, with a lot of the major swing states that are still too close to call on what their actual finalized vote's going to be. So whatever the result is going to be, that's going to be happening after you guys watch this video. A lot of people in the world are watching that right now. But what we've seen for Palantir Technologies, absolutely soaring in price, up over 50 to 15. We're seeing a lot of analysts after Q3 earnings that are starting to raise their price targets, even though they maintain a sell rating. And one of the big things, talking about overvaluation, a lot of people complain about that. Talk about the valuation now. We're going to be talking about where does Palantir go here in the future, celebrating these all-time highs, and talking about everything that I think is important for everybody to know. If you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, not a financial advisor, collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, Palantir Technologies, we have talked about predicted and asked you guys down in the comments, could we see Palantir pass 50 bucks in 2024? We've already made that mark. Pretty crazy to even talk about. Now, could we see $60? I think with the volatility that we have coming in, especially in the market, we're going to be talking about what's happening in the market right now, especially because the end of the week, in a few short days here, we're going to have the FOMC Fed meeting decision on regarding interest rates. And they're anticipating about a 25 basis point cut that is being fully priced into the market as we speak. But going back to Palantir stock, it is soaring right now while analysts are still calling for a slide. Let's break down this article. Now, as we know, there's no denying that Palantir is deserving of a premium valuation. I would agree with that right here, especially as we're seeing company delivering very strong Q3 earnings. We see this with revenue growth of 30% and even raising its whole 2024 guidance. That was one of the main bullish indicators and momentum drivers for Palantir. However, you have some of these analysts here that are still maintaining an underperform, however, while raising their price targets. You can see right here, raising to 37 from 30. You even have the Deutsche Bank coming here, raising their target from 26 from 21. Benefits from talking about more entrenched retail investors following relative to everything else we cover. Yes, a lot of retail investors are following Palantir, but I would say a lot of institutional investors now and a lot of investors mostly across the board. And that's because Palantir is now, of course, in the S&P 500. So regardless of what Palantir does, you have people that are, just purchasing general index funds that have exposure, buying the S&P 500 index funds like the VU, things like that, specifically are having passive buying of Palantir without them potentially even knowing about the company. And on top of that, you have Alex Karp coming out here talking about absolutely eviscerating this quarter, driven by unrelenting AI demand. That is also a big thing. And that the commercial revenue just by itself grew 54% to 179 million in the period. And the governmental revenue improved 40% to 320 million. These are some unprecedented numbers and shows you that the AI demand is continuing to soar. Now, one of the reasons I think why we could see Palantir really soaring here in the overnight hours is due to the fact with a little bit of basically, I would say, optimism for what the Republicans are showing in terms of a victory for Trump, just looking at what we're seeing right now. Of course, everything is always subject to change in terms of final actual results. However, in terms of that, they are typically always advocating for advanced U.S. defense systems. And with that, defending the West, that is what Palantir really stands in terms of a motto. I mean, we saw that recently with their governmental contract of L3 Harris. So I can see why if there is a Republican victory for the actual election, that's going to bring more bullishness and more momentum into Palantir. Let me know if you guys agree with those statements down in the comments. Of course, that's just my opinion, but that's kind of what I'm seeing right now and trying to correlate what's the reason for that. And that's kind of the biggest one that made sense in my head. Now, of course, with Palantir, commercial segments we see are continuing to shine. Like we said, one of the big questions is, and specifically, despite being a frothy valuation, does Palantir really remain a buy at this point? And talking about, were earnings really that good? I would say, in the simplistic terms and just a general consensus, yes, they were very good. I would think that Palantir has continued to really report these astronomical ratings. Now, one of the big things is that the valuation perspective, of course, we could talk about it, analyze it. It's disconnected right now. But Palantir is being priced for perfection. Palantir is really likely about estimated to earn about 36 cents this year, could report earnings per share in the 45 to 55 cent range in 2025. Now, of course, this puts the price to earnings multiple at about 100. Not a cheap stock in terms of valuation. However, Palantir is really priced for perfection. I would agree with that, but they are doing better than perfect. Can you even do better than perfect? That's what we're seeing in terms of Wall Street already setting very high expectations for Palantir. They are continuing to beat those expectations, and that's why it's continuing to be priced for perfection. The stock, of course, could retreat considerably. We see Palantir that is up about over 20% in a single trading day. Get ready for any type of profit taking, coolbacks, any type of pullbacks, testing support levels. Palantir is in a price discovery zone. Of course, for the long-term holders, this is a wonderful celebration, but for the potential for risky downside potential risk that is especially there with the amount of volatility that we have seen. Looking at the bottom line here, Palantir continues to be an excellent company. However, nonetheless, of what the current stock price is, they're going to continue to develop in the short term and the long term. That is what my prediction is. You can see we can run all the numbers here. But Palantir is doing very well, and I think the bullishness will continue to soar. Could we see 55 by tomorrow? I think that's incredibly possible. What we're seeing, Dow futures jumping 500 points in the Russell 2000, the small cap index here. Futures rise 2% as traders are betting a Trump winning. Coming here from CNBC talking about this, we see Bitcoin also on top for crypto, jumping to a record high. Now, in addition, you see Trump Media and Technology Group, the social media company, disclosed the candidate is surging more than 30% in the overnight trading hours. What we're seeing in terms of the general market, the 10-year Treasury yield actually surged to around 4.45% in speculation of the proposed tax cuts and other spending plans. This would increase the fiscal deficit, while possible tariffs could reignite inflation. Now, of course, there's a lot of volatility, like I said, but a lot of the market is, I think right now, pricing in a Trump victory, a Republican victory. Of course, things are always subject to change. But looking on top of that, you also have, in addition, the federal interest rates that could be cut. That is a 99%, basically probability, 96, 97%, depending on your sources, that we're expecting a widespread expectation for it to cut its main interest rate for the second straight time. There are a lot of things on the table. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, specifically looking at the electoral map right now, still sitting at 214 and 179. Big things are happening right now. We'll see what happens. Peace out, take care. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll see what the results look like then. Let me know, what do you think about all this down in the comments?